Welcome back to another episode of Influencer Boxing Talk number 12. Let's hop straight into it. I want to talk about the Cruiserweight Tournament that's happening on Misfits. Now, in my last video, I was talking about Misfits 16 and my predictions. Now at Misfits 16 and 17 have passed. I can speak about the full roster of these guys. Now, I can't kind of know what the term is going to look like. Now that everyone's fought, I can know that. I have some idea. So let's start with the first person. I do want to mention it. I was wrong about Temper. Temper lost the fight against Josh Bruckner. And I didn't actually put my predictions out for DTG and Minicon, but I had DTG like edging it. Maybe he ended up losing that fight as well. So there's that. I think both fights were great fights, 100%. I think in the case of Temper versus Bruckner, it was just a bad game plan from the beginning, as well as Temper's Shannon. But the reason I gave Malik Scott so much credit and just saying he was a great coach in my last video, because I noticed he's a film study coach. Like, he watches film on his opponents. But when it was time to fight Bruckner, all the weaknesses Bruckner is known to have, there was not taken advantage of. It was more of fixing so much focusing on Temper's defense, him trying to get out of a situation that's unfavorable. Not necessarily his defense when he's been attacked, but when he's cornered on the ropes. And Malik Scott, his main focus was clinching Josh Bruckner, which I have no clue why he thought it was a good idea to clinch an MMA fighter. It would have been good against most guys in the tournament, but clinching against an MMA fighter, you have to find a different way. So I think this is what went wrong in that fight. Josh Bruckner, of course, did not disappoint. Overachieved my expectations of him, and he came out on top with DTG and Minicon. I think DTG had it. I think it was a winnable fight for him as well, a lot more winnable than the Josh Bruckner and Temple fight. But I think it wasn't size, it wasn't necessarily power, it wasn't necessarily the speed of Minicon. They were pretty evenly matched. I think what hurt him the most was his cardio and his ability to deal with a jab. I don't think he had someone with a strong jab up until that point. So he even got a concussion from it, which is crazy. That shows you the dangers of the sport. He had like a mild concussion just because he wasn't knowing how to deal with that jab, because it was sticking him from rounds 3 and 4 like constantly. And his cardio didn't play a role in that as well. So now we know the strengths and the weaknesses of most of these guys. Let's get right into it. I want to talk about Mike Edwards. I did some film study on him. I was watching his fights, and he's very interesting because his style, his biggest weakness is also his biggest strength. It's his height. This guy is 6'6". He was a high jumper. If you don't know, it's a sport that involves the legs. You have to have really strong legs because they have to jump really high. So in boxing, I expect him to last all the rounds. I don't know how many rounds it is, because in boxing, your legs are everything. Like, this is where most of your energy is coming from. Your legs, you're literally walking. As long as you can move, you have a lot of energy if you have your legs. So I think with his height, because he's so tall, he literally has to put his guard right under his chin, which leaves his head exposed, of course. And it's not good. And it's just so easy to see Le'Veon Bell being able to take advantage of that, because we know he's explosive. And when I was doing film study on this Edwards guy, I mean, that's literally the opponent only time he landed when he was explosive. He didn't land when he was, feinting and throwing a simple 1-2 or a hook. It was when he was explosive overhand. It's like almost landed almost all night. And the Edwards guy never really caught on to it. I don't know how long he's been boxing for, but I assume that was his first fight. That was his debut. He's been an athlete for more than a decade, so it's kind of like Le'Veon Bell in that aspect. And I expect, for when they fight, I expect Le'Veon Bell to win just because of that reason. There, his guard is so low because he's so tall. Like, the Edwards guy would see a punch, he either back up because he's so tall he could just do that, or he would just get hit. And his defense is not that sophisticated because he's so tall. He doesn't feel the need to have a defense really like that against smaller guys. So he's got to fix that if he wants to win a tournament immediately. He has to focus on that. He has to have some sort of footwork game to get him out of range when he's swinging, when he sees a punch coming, or he needs to do something about that. Because Le'Veon and Bruckner or Minicon, by the time they meet, he's gonna need it. You know, his body is as big as open, which I assume this most of his defense is going to, because he's so tall. He want to protect his body and not let the other opponent score points. So in Le'Veon's case, he has a good chance of winning this tournament as well. Alongside Bruckner, I think out of everyone, he has the most chance to win the cruiserweight belt that KSI is currently holding. So on Le'Veon's side, he just needs to be more sharper for what he's doing. He was a bit sloppy fighting Tristan Ham. You just have to sharpen up. I think fighting a guy 6'6" is really going to test his skills. And I think this is the perfect fight for him to have in this tournament, because he's seen how his previous fight went with Edwards. In his fight, even his own fight, he knows he's better than that, but it was just good enough to win. So he knows the advantages he have coming into that fight. I don't know if Edward knows he has any advantages. I mean, Edward kind of fights like, it kind of reminds me of Tempo versus Slim. He kind of fights aggressively and not really much IQ behind it. So he has to work on some things. And it's just a recipe for him not getting a win whenever they face off. They haven't announced when the next cruiserweight is going to be. We just know it's going to be on the same night as, I think it's the finals. It's going to be the same night as the lightweight tournaments. So, on to the next side, we got Bruckner, Minicon. A lot of people right now Minicon because, of course, Bruckner's enormous experience over Minicon and Minicon's lackluster performance, and they're always expecting more. Even the fans wanted to expect more for him. I do think Minicon will have some good moments in that fight, but the thing that was going to be the real factor in this fight is the IQ. Josh Bruckner's IQ, his coach, his team. He has the best team in the world, one of the best teams in the world in the span of influencer boxing. But Minicon, I think he's more gritty. He just wants to work hard. He wants to be known to be working hard. That's why he was showing off his abs in the build-up, because he wants the people to know he's been working hard. And working hard gets you... It's a certain talent you have to understand IQ and actually do it on the fight night. That's a really good talent to have. And hard work, it doesn't just won't replicate what you need to do in order to win, unless you literally have power. And Minicon doesn't have power to do that. So it's gonna be a good fight, but I think Bruckner's gonna take it home. I think he's just gonna have better IQ than Minicon. Do I see a knockout? He's going to be a lot more scarier than even the Tipper fight. I do believe that. I mentioned that in my last video, that he wasn't going to be rusty. He was going to be rusty, but he's been doing this so long that it's really not going to matter. He's going to adjust really quickly. And it's exactly what happened. Even after the fight, he said it himself. Like, it only took him half of the first round to really shake off the rust, and he was back to his element. So for Minicon, I'm trying to see a way he can win, but he has the least amount of chance. I think he has a bit more chance than the Edwards guy to win this tournament, of course. But what I need Minicon to do, he has to somehow find a way to take away Bruckner's volume, because he is the most volume puncher out of all these guys here in this tournament. So he has to find a way to stop his volume. So you can either do that two ways. You can either become more offensive than him, or you become more defensive and more damaging with counter punching, which we know is his weakness. If you look at the Salt Poppy fight that Bruckner had. So I'm so excited because it's so many things that I think will happen, but I thought the same thing with Temper, or I thought the same thing with DCG. I just don't know really, in terms of the fact that on the night you can have the most brilliant pan, but it just turns out wrong, or you have one slip up and then you end up getting hurt and your nose is broken and you can't breathe right. That nearly almost happened to Bruckner. That's a real life example of what happened in the Temper and Bruckner fight. So, but from what I can tell, I think Bruckner is going to take that home easy. And so now we left with Bell and Bruckner. It's going to be a real hard fight for both guys. I think they're both athletic. I think they both have some sense of IQ. I think Bruckner has slightly more skills in his toolbox. Bell does like to smother. He does like to stop a volume puncher. There would be a way to stop a volume puncher like Bruckner and smother his punches after he gets his offense off. Bell, after he gets his offense off, he's going to smother his opponent. We're a good game plan against Bruckner, and I think he should be sharp. He should be counter punching. He should be taking. Even if Bruckner comes with a different style, which is probably he's not going to do in the third fight, that he's going to continue with the crashing forward style, the forcing my way in style. So it's to find a way, just like Salt Poppy did, just to time him. This all depends on Bell's sharpening his skills, like his skills he already has, but he doesn't have the experience and the time to actually do it inside of a ring, you know. Same thing with Bruckner. Bruckner could become the favorite of this tournament as well if he just sharpened his skills and not crash forward as much and be more intelligent. He already shown that he can be intelligent in a ring, and I think this fight was very important for him. It was really reminiscent of Deji versus Swarms in the way he kept cornering Temper into the corner with his feints and being smart and thinking and not allowing Temper to escape his feints and just stand on top of him that way. I always give him the opponent something to think about, and I think that was really smart of him. I can't say decisively who will win that tonight. I have to see the next round. I may have to do another video once Bruckner and Minicon and Bell and Edwards fight, but I want to end it off on that. I think I'll just leave it up to the open air, but I have acknowledged the abilities, the weaknesses, the advantages and disadvantages of all the guys. And I just want to leave it right there. I think this has been a good episode. I do want to highlight that I'm excited for the lightweight tournament. I will do a video on that soon. And yeah, we'll just leave